Welcome to the Prowl Podcast. This is Trevor Grice.
Chris Wilcox.
And we're back here recording another podcast for you guys. Got a couple results to report back. I know that last night was the first Caro soccer game.
Yep.
Yeah, soccer match, sorry. Soccer match. And the Tigers went home victorious, 9-1. There's apparently mercies in soccer. I did not know that.
I'm learning stuff as I venture into new sports.
So they got their 9th goal with 12 seconds left to play, and I wish I had the stats in front of you, but we're working on that. We're going to get in contact with coaches and making sure we're getting a nice steady flow of that data. And then tonight the soccer match was canceled, postponed.
Yep.
I think it's just canceled. My guess is they won't make it out. Lakeville's not a...
No, they won't make that out.
But it was tied 1-1 when the rain started coming down. So actually a really impressive goal from Owen Vandemark on a free kick straight away. He was quite a ways away. It was pretty cool. So, and then I know Diana's still coming back from the first varsity volleyball quad.
Yep.
And then we had football last week. So any thoughts on football?
Yeah, new system, new coach. Caro came out, drive the ball down the field, first quarter, 6:08 left to play, and it got to be 2nd and 10, and the game gets blown dead because of lightning. Kind of a bummer. I think there's a lot of momentum heading in Caro's favor. Unfortunately, after a almost 2-hour lightning delay, they're able to take the field. Field was pretty messy. It really, really was. They get a safety to get on the scoreboard first, so it's 2-0. Marlette ends up scoring just before half, 8-2 ball game, goes into half 8-2. Marlette comes out and puts another score up, goes up 16-2. Caro just could not get a lot of things going. New system is a double wing tee, so they're running the football, a little passing here and there, but just the footing wasn't there, everything wasn't there. The defense was... I like the defense. They're hounding to the ball. Just got to make some wrap-ups, hard tackles, but that's all going to come. It's first game of the season. But Caro did lose 22-2. Marlette got a late fourth quarter touchdown out of it. But I'm going to say a respectful game, even barring the score.
Yeah, you were kind of telling me about that, and from your perspective, and what the expectations were for Marlette this year.
Yeah. Marlette's going to be a good football team. They're going to compete in the East very highly. It would not surprise me if they finish second in the East.
So this week, the Tigers are going to Memphis.
Yep.
All right, that's on varsity on Friday. I believe JV is on Wednesday. Home.
Yep, correct.
Right.
Yep.
So, don't know. It's a Memphis Yellow Jackets, is that?
Memphis Yellow Jackets, that is correct.
I don't know anything about them other than...
if you get stung by a yellow jacket, it hurts, but these Yellow Jackets haven't been stinging a whole lot
They're
lately,
not.
So we can leave that as is, but good luck to both squads. The JV on Wednesday, varsity on Thursday. The reason for that, obviously, Labor Day weekend. So
Was varsity Friday or Thursday?
Thursday.
It is Thursday?
It is Thursday, yeah.
Well, then I probably need to adjust my expectations. All right. Well, here we are today to record this podcast, title of which is a question. Is winning a mindset? And I know there's been a lot of talk, you and I have heard it, around a lot of different avenues, particularly here in town, about winning. And a lot of that is you talk a bit about it when there isn't much of it going on. And I think it's no surprise to anyone listening here that Caro sports has been down a bit. There hasn't been a whole lot of winning happening in various areas, despite the fact that lately there's been some pretty important changes and movement in the right directions. And, that's when most people look at kind of what's happening at the high school level, and that's not to... Caro soccer had a really decent season last year. Girls basketball, right? Boys basketball made some improvements.
Look at the wrestling program. From a couple years before to last year, just a ton of swing, a ton of movement. That is going to be a podcast that's going to be upcoming.
Yep.
We're going to be talking to Coach Rocco Borg. But yeah, there's a lot that's happening. And this goes back to one of our episodes, I believe episode 3, about following a team. Like, jump on, follow a team. It doesn't have to be, my son plays basketball, I'm only going to watch basketball. Maybe you don't know anything about wrestling and you want to follow the wrestling team. Go follow.
And she's not here, but last night Diana went out to go watch the soccer match with me as well, and she found it to be much more entertaining than she even expected.
Anticipated, probably, right?
Yeah, much more. And so, it was, in Juniata, they're a small school, and so there was a lot of action on the Caro side, and that was an expected result, I'm sure. But just learning new sports, and it's not only keep it there, go support, the plays when they happen, buy your tickets and get out there and, take in a little.
Be a community that's involved.
Yeah. So to the topic, it really, I guess the title comes from the core component of what we were setting this podcast around, and that was an image that we saw. I sent it to you on Facebook.
Yep.
It was a picture of someone looking at Michael Phelps, and it said, "Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners." And
that couldn't be any more true.
So when I send that to you, what do you think? I mean, obviously you think it's true, but
just right away, it's just it's a complete mindset. I had flashbacks of not only teams that I played on, but teams that I've coached, and how those teams stack up, and just how we were presented in that mindset. It was a mindset of, you go do the game, and we talked about this a little bit off air, but you do the game, and the game takes care of itself. Yep. The results take care of itself. And very much so that, I was just kind of, I think I responded back to you like right away, like, oh, so true, or something of that nature. It is. Winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners.
So you kind of lead into a comment. Part of that discussion that you and I were having off mic was the statement I really kind of held firm in with myself now lately is the game is the game, right? And having that be a little bit more of the focus. And I've stolen that from a YouTube guy, Russell Cook. So he's a kind of a British, it's an athlete. It's like a super ultra athlete. He's an ultra marathoner. Okay. And so his current thing right now is he's running from tip to top of Africa. And so if you guys want to go check him out.
Well, that's a heck of a run.
Yeah. It's going to take him a bit, if you might imagine. And if you go check him out, he's on YouTube, Twitter, and his tag is @HardestGeezer, and it's hardest, as you would expect, Geezer, Geezer. And he's not an old guy by any means. He's actually pretty young, and he's literally running a marathon every day. It's a phenomenal thing. They're living out of a truck. Sometimes they get donated some time at a hotel somewhere if they're in the right place in Africa. And, I haven't watched him lately, but early on in that whole endeavor, they're about in the middle of Africa now. But in that whole endeavor, he keeps saying, hey, the game is the game. And he goes back out and just starts running because there is no excuses, right? I don't feel well. I'm not going to get to the top of Africa if I just sit here and complain about it. Just get out there and go. Right. And so sometimes he's walking. Sometimes he's running. Sometimes one time he felt pretty good and he did extra, right? And almost like a marathon and a half. But so the tagline, the game is the game, is something I started to adopt because if you really look at it and break it apart, it's this notion that stop making excuses.
Right. Well, you sent me over one today that I want to just kind of take a look at here. And I'm not going to tell you who posted it, but it's just an image. And it's kind of one of those, it says hungry to win. And then the other setup says hungry to do what winning requires. Well, everybody's in line because they're hungry to win, right? But they don't want to do what's required in order to win. And it kind of follows this. Truly it does. You just can't expect you're going to win. Not only is it the mindset aspect, but you have to put everything into it too. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I could go out and golf, but man, I don't practice a whole lot, so it's not going to look very good, right? I'm probably not going to beat somebody one-on-one that golfs 3 times a week. I might get lucky on a hole, but that'll be it. It'll be a hole. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing, right? It's taking a kid that's had very minimal reps, a sport we're familiar with, baseball, right? He only gets reps when he's in rec league. Well, you're going up against a kid that's had thousands upon thousands of reps also playing travel baseball. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. There's a huge difference. So,
well, and I think that's a good point. So, my son, my oldest, all of our sons play baseball. That's just a thing we'll put out there. And my oldest played his high school year this year, and those were conversations I had with some other kids. They were saying, "Oh, wow, why is he like this? Why is he like that?" And he's now finished his freshman year. He's now started his sophomore year, and after this summer, he's over 500 competitive baseball games.
That's a lot of games. That's a lot of games.
At 15 years old. Yeah. And what would you have been at 15 years old?
Maybe 60, 70. I don't even know if I would have touched 100, to be honest with you. Competitive games. I mean, if you want to look at T-ball,
Yeah.
I maybe 100,
Right.
Maybe 100.
You can't make up for basically what is 400% more reps.
Yeah.
And there is skill involved, and we know that the right kid could practice and all of a sudden go past that person with all of those reps. That we see that all the time in sports because athletic talent is a gift, right?
It certainly is.
It's definitely a gift, especially if you start honing it. But to get back on this whole mindset thing, this idea that the game is the game. Or actually, I want to talk about the one that I posted you earlier, right? So if you guys can just visualize, there's a stand here, and it says people that want to win, and the line is just long. And then there's this lonely guy sitting at this other stand that said willing to do what it doesn't say willing, but it says
hungry to do
what it takes to win.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
And in my world, in the psychology world, we look at that as want versus willing. Okay, lots of people want, and they'll tell you all the time about what they want. And if you break that down, it's actually very I almost want to say the word shallow in a way to say that I want, right? It sounds very toddlerish.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right. Whereas, in my world, the thing I come back to is what are you willing to do to accomplish that? Okay, I want to save my marriage. Okay, what are you willing to do to accomplish that? I want to have a better relationship with my older kids. Whatever things might happen in my office, they come out here to a sports field as well, or a court, or the pitch for soccer. And the thing is we as coaches, we see this all the time. Okay, we can put forth the expectation, and then we can hear what people want. In fact, you always kind of start that year with goals.
Always.
Right.
Always goals.
You have them write them down, and then it's a matter of are they willing to do. And you can see that.
I mean, if you're giving me goals, right, and I'm going to reflect back on baseball just because it's a sport that I know very well. But we get goals of, hey, coach, I want to hit over 400. Okay, what are you going to do? Because hitting 400 in baseball, that's tough enough. Let alone what are you going to do to put in the effort in order to hit 400? Hey, coach, I want to make 0 errors. What are you going to do now to make 0 errors during a season that could be up to 50, 60 games? I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's very, very tough. Same thing on the pitching. What are you going to do? And it's a goal aspect. Give me your goals, and what are you going to do to get there?
And are they actually realistic? Because 0 errors. The only way you're going to accomplish that is by not playing.
Exactly.
For the most part. So, yeah. And I guess this gets into some other topics that, there's been this on teams that we've been a part of and I've been a part of. There's this thing of like, we're not a team, we're a family. All right. So here you go.
Don't even get me started because I already said this before. There is no I in team, but there's an I in family. And I hear that so much. We're a family, or family on 3. And it's just, you're not. You're not a family. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. Right. There's a lot of very close families, but you are a team. You are a team.
It just sets expectations that are incorrect because a team has roles. And you know what some of the roles are? Bench player.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can arguably the most important roles. I mean, right now, the NFL is cutting down into 53. And Dan Campbell, who I try to listen to most of the stuff, I've learned quite a bit from him because I think he's a student of coaching too, and he probably would tell you that. But his recent stuff about cutting down to the roster to the 53 in preparation for the season, he's actually spent more time talking about his practice squad and how important the practice squad is. That's not even the bench. That's the bench underneath the bench. But those guys in football, particularly in the NFL, are huge because they are running the offense against the defense.
Correct. I mean, they're setting you up for failure and they're setting you up for success.
And that's their role, right? That's their role. And so teams have roles and teams don't have equity.
Correct.
There can't be equity. Any team that has equity is not a winning team. It is just the way that it is. As a coach, we know this, right? And we've played. Now, rec ball is different. Rec ball should be pretty equal, okay, when it comes to playing time. And does that mean that you sacrifice some games from winning? Sure, but it's rec ball. That's in the nature of what it's called. It's recreational. And some people probably listen and say, that's not true. I say, hey, for the most part, it is true. And we see teams that will turn rec ball into their personal goal to try to be in the MHSAA Baseball Hall of Fame at 12.
All the time.
And then we see how it hurts kids, right? Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sorry about that. If everybody heard that out, out there. That was my knee. We're good, though. Oh, sorry.
So, and what you see is with kid abuse.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the classic one from a local town in a summer tournament was a kid that we clocked in at having over 320 pitches in a weekend to try to win, to the point where he was playing against us and couldn't throw anymore. They put him at second base. This was a very good baseball player, by the way.
Yes.
Ball was hit to him, and he couldn't even throw it to first because of how much he'd pitched that weekend. Like, these are stories that we see. And that's when the I is the coach, right, which is its own problem, and probably a different podcast, a different day. But the team has roles, and it's important, I think, for coaches to teach those roles, but it's important for parents and other family to grasp that the role of your child may not be what you want it to be, but it's important for them to adopt that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my son may not be the starting quarterback. My son may not be the shortstop. My son may not be the power hitter, but my son can run a football. He can catch a football. He can block. He can, lay down a bunt when needed. He can track down a fly ball, whatever that might be, Listen, it's very obvious my son's not very tall. Alex, the oldest.
I was like, which one?
Yeah, I was going to say Alex. Let me clarify. So, he's not going to be the center unless all of a sudden he hits, 13 inches of growth in the next year. Not going to happen. But he can do other things. And if that means he's encouraging while he's on the bench, you better be dang straight that you better learn how to be encouraging while you're sitting there and helping and knowing your role. Your role during practice is to push those other kids. And if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes.
Which is the epitome of a team. It's this idea that there are people that are ready to take your job if you lose the correct mindset, right? Whereas a family, goodness, what does it take to lose a spot in a family? Like, I mean, it's going to take some major stuff, really, for the most, especially with kids. So, going back to the topic, is winning a mindset. I think most of us are going to say, yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
But what is it? Like, how do we train that, right? That's the big question. And it's, okay, well, first off, we have to focus on what it takes to win. We have to focus on the game. We have to have a team mentality rather than a family mentality. And at the other side of it is I think just gratitude for the opportunity. I mean, so many times we've been hearing these statements of, well, I want, or I believe, or then the whispers, right? The whispers are the ones that are there's always going to be whispers from the side.
Always going to be whispers. In talking on that gratitude aspect, I don't know how many kids have the gratitude. And I say that out of respect, and I'm not bashing anyone here. I'm not. But it's the fact of, almost most schools around here, you're going to make a team unless you're in a very large school. And if you're in a very large school, then obviously you're going to have sometimes a bigger team than normal. May not go for that for baseball. It may not go for that for basketball, football. Totally different story. And I'm only choosing those. It could be the same thing for tennis, golf, soccer. You're not going to have those big teams. And then that's where that gratitude comes in. You might want to just be happy that you made the team, and there's a reason why you made the team. You're needed, but it's what are you needed for? It's doing that job. Can you get a starter position? 100% you can. Guess what? Go out there and work for it. Winning just doesn't come to you. You got to work for it.
Success, even.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we take winning, which is what our topic is, but, you and I have this like-minded approach that this is all preparation for what's out there, right?
Yep.
Success in whatever it is that you're going to do. And it's interesting, as you're sitting there listening, I'm having this, I didn't even listen to the whole thing, but Pat McAfee, I listen to him quite a bit. People love him. Some people hate him. It doesn't really matter. I like listening to him. And today he was talking about how professional sports is a meritocracy. And what a meritocracy is the whole idea that you get your place based upon how good you are. And that there are very few places in this world anymore where that's the truth. Even though we would like to think it's the truth out in the real world and jobs and stuff, we also know that there's nepotism and other things like that.
Right.
But he was just talking about, like, when you're not good anymore, you lose your job because they're not going to pay you. And when you are better than the next person, there's a very good chance that you're going to get that role, because that leads to the number one goal in professional sports, which is to
win.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
not feed sense of entitlement, right?
No.
Not to make the family happy. No, it's none of that.
Guess what happens when you win? Those professional players usually get bonuses. There's incentives that go along with it. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, they're getting paid to do that. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, 100%. Listen, if somebody's going to tell me that, hey, you're going to get an extra $1 million, you go out and win the Super Bowl, and granted, it's not $1 million, but if you go out there and you do that, well, yeah, let's go. You know, it doesn't hurt that if it's a Super Bowl and you lose, you still make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's all about, even finishing first place in the conference, whatever it may be. Like, I get that, and that's a great point. I mean, that sense of entitlement, essentially.
Because it's running rampant, right? And it runs rampant. What I know is that a sense of entitlement runs rampant in towns, in places where winning is not happening. Okay, this idea that I deserve something because of an arbitrary thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if you twist it into the real world, like, I should get that job because I'm 2 years older. Like, that sounds ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
But it's what we'll hear in schools, right? Well, he's new. Okay, well, if it's a meritocracy, right, which sports tends to be in most situations, I would like to think that high school sports is that, and in other places, only rec ball probably isn't and shouldn't be, right?
Right.
Because we're building a love for the game. We're not actually supposed to be winning. We're supposed to win. You still want to show that that's important, but we really want to show a passion and love for the game, right?
Correct.
That's really what we're trying to develop, whatever the sport is that we're doing. And yet we see this whole sense of entitlement. I deserve this because I'm breathing, right? I'm here. I've been here for 3 years. I've been on the team for 4. And they think that every time it's always like, well, the coach must hate me. Well, the coach has a job, right? And it's to put the best people there. So, you and I know what if our kid were to say that, it's like, we bop them on the head and be like, you're talking lunacy here. You lost the position. Tell me why you think you lost the position, and don't use the word, I think the coach hates me. Who took your spot? Are they working harder?
Yeah. Well, it's exactly that. I mean, if somebody comes in and they're working harder than you and you're not working, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? Mm-hmm. And guess what happens? Those that continue to work hard are going to surpass those that have talent now and just kind of put in some effort, a little effort here, a little effort there. Bust your butt. Do what you have to do. If it's currently you're on a bench, you're a bench player, be the best bench player you can be. If you're the starting center, be the best starting center that you can be. If you are the best water boy, be the best water boy you can. Like, be the best at what you can possibly be at and how you're needed on that team. Mm-hmm. It is that simple, and I try to. I say that with a token of, you never know because, you haven't done this, or maybe you haven't done that. Or I've been in a lot of places and I've been in a lot of situations in my short 40-year span here on Earth. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been in quite a few of those. Mm-hmm. And I have never, ever felt a sense of entitlement because of that. I know that my senior year, I was a captain of our football team, and I worked my tail off. I'm not saying I didn't. I worked my tail off pretty hard. I was in the weight room the entire summer. I did what was needed. The leadership responsibilities, things of that nature. I never once expected to become a captain of the football team. That was not even my goal. My goal was for the team to have a winning and successful season, and we can make it to the playoffs. That's how we judged a successful season: getting to the playoffs first and continue your run through. So that sense of entitlement was never even there. And those that you go back to I've been here for 3 years, and little Timmy comes in and he's just now in his first year, and he's starting over me. Well, maybe little Timmy has been busting his butt for the last 4 years. While you're feeling sorry for yourself over here throwing a pity party because you didn't start the last 3 years. And guess what happened? Little Timmy just surpassed you.
Yeah, if you're waiting for your time, then you're already failing.
Correct.
And I'm also going to throw this back at you. Why do you think you didn't have a sense of entitlement?
I never felt that I had that sense of entitlement because I was never brought up to, and this is me, I was never brought up to expect things given to me.
I'm glad that you hit that ball off the tee that I set up for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Because that's kind of where our segue to this is we've been talking about players. We talked a little bit about coaches. But now also, probably almost the most important one is the parents.
Yeah, 100%.
We hear these things like what's happening at the dinner table, right? And we know that most people aren't eating at a dinner table anymore, but there's still conversations that are being had. And what are those conversations? Are they, you're so great, I can't believe that they're not doing this? Is it like elevating your prince or princess up to a level that they don't deserve? And I really do mean that. I mean that in terms of the aspect of that particular event. Okay, kids deserve whatever they're willing to work for, and then they also deserve certain inalienable rights, just like we all do. But sometimes we as parents think they deserve more just because we have strong feelings for them.
Right.
And we forget to take our parent glasses off and see how others view them, right? I mean, I guess, is what you're doing at home assisting the team mentality or undercutting it? And that's just more of a rhetorical question for everybody listening, because if you're undercutting the team mentality, then why wouldn't your son or daughter have different expectations moving forward?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's, you sit there and you think about that, and I'm not saying I have or I haven't in those aspects, not that I'm aware of I have, but it's those things. Even you and I as coaches, I know that I step back a lot and go, yeah, he may not be right for that. He may not be the person that we need in this situation. I mean, early on this past year in our baseball season, I had a strong talk with Alex. He was struggling very, very mightily, and it came down to, I think we ended up batting 9 the one game, and he wasn't batting. But he understood why. Mm-hmm. He got that, and after that, he decided, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to put more work in. He ended up turning his season right around. I not complete 180, but pretty dang close. And he drove his average back up to probably where he should be at, and he had a successful season. But that goes back to undercutting that mentality. Even though I am a player and a coach, I try to see things from both ways, and I speak to him reasonable, being that dad and also being that coach, because there's a lot of times I want to be hard on him. And it's like, you also have to find out yourself as well.
Which kind of sets us to the final topic to talk about with this, and that is the importance of losing. Despite our desire to want to win everything, you can make the argument that winning everything is not healthy in a long, long span.
Right.
Case in point.
Ithaca Yellow Jackets.
No, I mean.
All right. Oh, okay. All right.
I think they were doing things right. I more or less am thinking about trust fund kids, right?
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
Where they're just given everything.
Yep.
And then there's this idea of how there's definitely some that grew up and went a different path that was positive and found their own way. But there's this kind of stereotype, right? That trust fund kids don't know how to work. They just kind of have it handed to them, right?
Yep.
And so, in psychology, I really come around, and I think it's as a coach too, I try to put everything together, but I really come around to this idea that losing is necessary for learning, that you actually can't learn from winning. The only way that I have really kind of wrapped my head around how you learn from winning is if you focus on why the other team lost, which is still focusing on losing, right? That losing and failure is how we learn. And so if we look at Alex having a struggle in the first part of the year, right, those were failures. And he could either choose to stay the course he was going and have the same results, or change the course, however he chose to do that. Maybe it was mostly a mindset from what I saw.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm already at the bottom, so the only thing I can do is just start having fun and see what happens, because that was, from my observation as the other coach, the big difference.
Right.
Was he went back to not stressing, but going back to have fun, which is the key component of his and what he brings to the field. So are we, when we come home as coaches, programs, parents, members of a community, are we looking at our losses, or even in a small spot, our failures, as things to learn from, right? And that, again, another rhetorical question, because that's really for you guys to kind of answer. If I know that I usually follow up, not right in the car after a game, right? But somewhere after that, it's like, hey, didn't have the best game. Yeah, I know. Why do you think that was? Let's try to learn from that.
Yep. And I've had those rides too, right? I try to be a little different, and a lot of people are like, well, you keep saying that. Well, when you coach and you're also a parent, it is tough, because my kid is by far not the greatest one that was on the team by any means, but he had his role, he had his job. That's where he was, and to know that, right, and to talk about those failures. I've always said, and I'll say it 100 times over. I've talked to people when Alex was probably 4 or 5 years old, said, man, I hope he understands what it's like to fail, because, and I want him to fail. Like I've told his teachers that, like, I want him to fail, and they're like, you want him to get bad grades? Well, no, I don't want him to get bad grades. But I want him to know what it's like to have failure, because if he doesn't know what it's like to have failure, he won't know what it's like to win.
So I learned that from Dave Ramsey. Most of you know he's that financial guy who has podcasts and all that. And he put it in a way that I was able to extrapolate out into a bigger span. He goes, let your 5-year-old spend his $2 on absolute trash, a horrible toy that's going to break. And if you don't do it then let your 12-year-old spend his $20 on a toy that's going to break, or waste it on something that's stupid. Because if you don't do it, if you don't let him spend the $2 at 5 to learn that lesson or the 20 at 12, then at 16, it's going to be a $200 mistake. And at 18, it's going to be a $2,000 mistake. And those ones hurt a lot more than 2 or 20. And that is why we want I'll flat out tell you, I've sabotaged my kids on purpose so that they will have failures. They don't know that, and I can't even give you an exact experience, but I want them to learn those lessons, and the only way to do it is through what we would call hurt, I guess, or failure, right? And it's not a horrible thing.
I hope your kids never listen to this podcast. They're gonna look at you next time and go, "He's sabotaging me." When you're not, but that's what they're going to think.
Yeah, but it might be like letting them do something that I know that's going to fail miserably, right? Yeah. I mean, that's really without stepping in front of them and being the helicopter parent and saying, "No, you shouldn't," right? Go do that. At one point, it was Max joining the swim team. Like, I knew I want to join the swim team. I want to join. We just talked about this the other day, right? He was miserable the whole year, but he knew he couldn't quit because we had that conversation. He thought it was going to be cool to go on the swim team, and then this was when he was like 7 or something. He hated it the whole time. We still talk about it, but now whenever he has to make a decision, it's very thought out, and I know that when Max makes a decision to do something, he's thought it out to the end and is signed up and committed to the whole thing to see it through. I have no doubt about that now. But he had to learn that at 7 when he realized that, I have to go to swim practice 3 days a week.
I just thought I was going to do cannonballs off the diving board, and now I actually have to swim the length of the pool. Oh, man.
Yeah. So it wasn't exactly swim like it is out of the at a local pool. Or,
right.
And he knew that, but he didn't see it all the way through. But he wasn't expected to at 7, Anyway, winning is a mentality, ? Yes. But here's the funny thing. You can have a team mentality. Parents can do the right things. Kids can have the right mindset. They can work hard. They can be grateful and gracious for everything they've had. In the world of sports, you can have all that in place and you can still lose.
And you can lose bad sometimes. It happens.
Because that's what makes sports great.
Yep.
And why it's going to be a topic of many of the things we talk about on here, but hopefully not all, because we don't want to be singularly focused. But because guess what? There's a competitor out there doing the same stuff.
And maybe they're better than you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're just a little bit better because they're working a little bit harder. It happens. And that's okay.
Or they're Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Which is, if you ever want to learn about what it takes to win, listen. I mean, I'm sure there's just less about Michael Jordan, right? Kobe, there's a lot of interviews with Kobe about this, and it's fascinating about mental mind games with somebody. One of my favorites was Jason Williams, who was a point guard getting out of Duke. This was before his motorcycle accident, and he was in an away game in LA, and he saw Kobe in the home gym working out, and he says, well, I'm going to work out as long as Kobe. So he was over in the visitors gym, and there was eye spots there. Anyway, Jason Williams was just going and working out, and he finally said, whatever, I'm done. So he went to the hotel. So after the game, and I think the Lakers won, he went up to him and said, how long do you work out, man? And he goes, I knew you were there. I was working out longer than you. It was just a game of chicken, and Kobe won, and the mindset that takes, right? He's over there, I'm here. You and I both know, we talk about winning a game before you even start playing a game, right? How you play catch.
And he already won it. And that's the thing.
He won it before the game happened.
Absolutely.
Right. And, 8th grade basketball last year, told our guys, we had a good team. We had a very good team. We split with Cass City, who was also a good team, and we both, I think, ended up with the same record. But I told them, don't ever make eye contact. There's nobody on the other side of that half of the court during warm-ups that you need to care about. None whatsoever. And they did that, and it was interesting because you could see the other team watching them, and they wouldn't care about them, and they come out and just, it's a mindset, right? And then there's a story of, I don't remember who it was that told me this, but went up to a home plate meeting with a coach, and this was in high school, and the coach went up there and says, well, this is going to be a long day for us. And it had to do with the fact that the team, that the coach that told me had a warm-up regimen, something that we focus a lot with our kids when we're doing baseball, how to throw correctly, how to go through all the right things. And for the most part, for the past 3 years, we've rarely seen a team that doesn't have that too. Both teams are kind of very equivalent in what they're doing mostly the same things. But in high school, it's not the same. The coach went up there and said, we're going to lose 2 games today before the games were ever played, because his mindset was, you guys already played catch better than us, And how is that coach going to then support his kids if he's already got a losing attitude,
right?
Yeah. Anyway, so much more. I'm sure we'll talk about more of these topics. We can pick these apart. And if you guys are listening to this on Facebook or anywhere else, and there's a part of this you'd like us to go into more, put it in the comments. We'll see it, and we'll
let us know. I mean, we're open to everything. We're open. Well, not almost everything, pretty close to everything and anything. So
I think we're going to put this out. I think this will be episode 4. We'll put this out maybe tomorrow. And then you said Friday we got, who's coming out?
we're going to be on episode 5 already. You already lose track?
What was episode 4?
Our AD, Josh Hess.
It was, oh my goodness. This will be episode 5.
This will be episode 5, yes.
This will be, and episode 6 is going to be?
Coach Rocco Borg.
All right, and we're expecting that to come out Friday.
Yeah. I'm trying to get it, trying to get everything wrapped up on Friday. We'll get it all buttoned up. If anything, may come out over a weekend.
Okay,
maybe
give you something to listen to over the long Labor Day weekend. We hope everybody has a good, long, safe Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
And I guess when you get us out of here with where they can find us.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and follow the Tigers Den at Caro Tigers Den on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok.
I don't know if anything's being posted on that yet, but
not yet, but it'll get there.
All right. So anyway, thanks for listening. Seriously, if you guys have topics, I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to say, no, we're not going to cover that topic. But we are going to, sports are starting to get going now, so we're going to have more to talk about there. But anyway, thanks for listening. This is Trevor Grice and
Chris Wilcox.
I'll see you later.